Alright, I wanted to take a minute here and show you how you can increase the capacity on your reels. I know a lot of people aren't made of money. You don't have to have special reels for special types of fishing. You want one animal that can do it all. So we really like the 500 Extreme here in the narrow, and the reason we like the narrow is if you have people that aren't experienced with an open reel without a level wind, you can pretty much just crank and the line will find its way onto the spool correctly. Unless you have the reel completely sideways or something like that, it will find its spot pretty easily without having to guide it. So what we do is we stack our line. So we want 30-pound strength line on here. So what we're going to do is, instead of putting our thick mono, we're going to use our mono mainly here. So our mono is going to be our connection to the fish. We're going to fight our fish on the mono. I use the red here because it shows up nice on the video. So we have 30-pound mono, so we have 30-pound braid, and use a good quality braid because this is going to stay on your reel for a while, a few seasons actually. So we're going to start by putting our braid straight onto the reel. And what I like to do is, normally if you're going to attach braid to a reel, you want to put a short length of mono first, but because we're going with a smaller reel here, we're going to stack the braid underneath the mono. I'm going to attach it straight to the spool. I'm going to show you how we do that. Okay, like I said, normally if you're going to attach braid to a reel, you're going to put a small length of mono first. And the reason being, if you have a large body of braid on a spool, it will actually become one big thick medium and spin on the spool, even if you have it tied with a knot. The spool will shrink or swell depending on the temperature, humidity, whatever, and you actually have a fish pull and you'll see the entire body of line spin. Now I don't want to do that now because it's a small reel. I don't want to have mono, braid, mono, and all those extra knots in such a small reel. So what I'm going to do here is a little trick, and I've done this for years and years since mono and braid have become a part of our fishing system here, and I've never had it slip on me. I'm going to do is a double overhand knot, so I went twice with it. And now I'm going to go 3 times. So just a simple 1, 2, 3. I'm going to pull it tight. I'm going to grab a pair of pliers here. I'll wrap it so that I can get a good grip on it. I'll pull it tight to the spool. Okay. Get a small pair of scissors here. Now, keep this from spinning, I'm going to use some electrical tape. What I do is I put it right on the knot and I stretch it so it gets thinner. I stretch it good. And what it does is it allows this line to bite into the rubber, cause just enough friction where there's no way that line is going to spin as one solid body. You see how tight I'm pulling it. As long as you get it across to lay back on top of itself, it'll stick nice. Okay, I want to trim the tape without cutting my line. Lay that down, and now we're going to go ahead and crank our line on, and you can see as that compresses down on top of that tape, it's going to pull it very tight and it will not spin. So what we can do is put 50 yards of 30-pound braid. Now this 30-pound braid is the diameter of 8-pound mono, so we can put a lot of this on and not use up a whole lot of real estate on the spool. Here's another little trick. You just have a regular old line winder here that we just got. It's cheap. It's a Berkeley. It's meant here to attach the reel, but I have a line counter here that's meant to attach to your rod for trolling, and I attached it here right to the reel seat. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put this through here, set it to 0, and I'll crank on 50 yards of line onto this reel, which will be 150 feet. This measures in feet. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Alright, we have our 50 yards of 30-pound braid on there. You can see it took up almost no real estate compared to what 50 yards of mono would have taken up. So that's our backing, so to say. We're going to go ahead and use a uni to uni knot and attach this braid to 30-pound mono, and it's called a uni to uni. I'll show you how to do it. It's a very simple knot. It's extremely strong. Alright, I'm going to show you the uni to uni knot right now. Here's our mono, here's our braid, and we're going to lay it across each other. Just like so. Okay. Start with the mono side here. Bring a loop right here. You can see that right there. Okay. And I'm going to go about 6 to 8 times. I'm going to wind it across the braid and the mono. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. We'll do 7. I'm going to pull that down, snug it, not super tight, just snug it. Okay, and I'll do the same thing on the braid side, on this side over here. I'm going to take the braid and loop it around, just like so. And I'm going to do 6 to 8 times. Okay. And these tag ends are actually going away from each other. 3, 4, 5, see that? 6, 7. I'm going to give it a pull. Just snug it. Now, I want to get it a little bit wet with saliva. And pull the 2 main lines away from each other. Now, once they get close here, just like that, I'm going to grab the mono tail and the mono main line and give it a good hard pull. I'm going to grab the braid. I'm going to use a pair of pliers to grab the braid tail end because it's kind of hard on the fingers here. And pull the tail end and the main end, cinch it down. Get a little wet again. Pull the 2 main lines, and that's my knot right there. That's a uni to uni knot. Okay, it's a really clean knot. And why it travels through the guide so nicely is, instead of like a blood knot where the tail ends stick out the side, these stick out and lay flat to the main line. Now what I do is a little bit different. Is I will cut it close, but not too close, not as close as most people would. We'll leave a little bit of a tail. I'm going to do the same thing with the mono, leave a little bit of the tail. And you can see there's a little bit of material there. And what I'll do is I'll take a torch, a little lighter, careful not to damage my knot. I'm going to heat it, trying to stay away from the knot, and put a bulb on it, wet my finger, and push it down. Now that little tail, you can see that became part of the knot. It melted right in. So it'll travel through my guides nice and smooth. I'll do the same thing with the braid. The braid won't give us a bulb as nice as the mono, of course, but it will clean up the knot a bit. So get my finger wet before I touch it, and that's your knot right there. That will travel through your guides and be part of your main line, and it'll never be a problem. Now I'm going to go ahead and wind my mono on, fill the reel. I'll do that right now. Alright, as I wind my mono on, I want the knot to be in the middle of the spool. Okay, and we're using our spooler here. Again, want to monitor exactly how much line I'm putting on, so I'm going to put it in the line counter. Set it to 0. We'll fill the reel and see how much line we can fit on here. Alright, we have our open reel almost full. A little trick with an open reel. What I mean by open is there's no level wind on here. You want to get in the habit of slightly underfilling your reels. Never overfill an open reel. So I'm going to go ahead and trim it there. With a level wind, you might add a little bit more to leave like 1/8 of the spool exposed. I'll leave a little more than that. That's about where I leave it right there. Sometimes I'll put even less line on here. But once we rig, we're going to pull a lot of this line off. So the idea is, if you have overfilled these a little bit, trying to squeeze a few more yards, if you have a person who's not quite experienced and they grab the reel and start winding in a fish, they can build a hump on one side or in the center of the reel, and the hump will hit the frame and it will stop, and you'll have a fish 10 feet from you sitting in the water, and you can't get them in until you pull some line off. So always get in the habit of underfilling your open reels slightly. Alright, we just finished putting a line here on our reel. We stacked our 30-pound mono on top of our 30-pound braid, so it's 30-pound strength throughout the reel. And we took a reel that can hold 178 yards of 30-pound mono, and we managed to put 210 yards 30-pound on here. Now it's MONO Topshot, and it's a braid back, and they're both 30 pounds, so we don't have to worry when we get down and see the knot. Should we have a big fish, go ahead and pull us off. You know, is the backing the same strength or not? We know it is. So I did 30 to 30. This is a quick way to increase the capacity on your reel. Like I said, we went from 178 yards to 210 yards by doing this. With bigger reels, people stack them even further. You can go with thinner and thinner braid all the way down. And the idea is, you have a big fish, take a long run off. If you have a lot of line out when the fish strikes, and he peels a lot more off, you're starting to get worried. You look down and you're seeing a knot. Instead of seeing a knot tied to the spool, you're seeing a knot tied to 50 more yards of braid. Not only do we increase our capacity here, but we're saving money in the long run. If you're rigging up 18 to 20 rods, we've used a lot less mono. The braid will stay on there for multiple seasons. I'll leave the braid on there for 2 or 3 seasons because it almost never see daylight. And braid lasts a lot longer anyway. And I'll just change my MONO Topshot. Now I change mine, you know, 3, maybe 4 times a season, but that's extreme for the average fisherman. We fish a lot, so we do for a living, so we do a lot more than others. Once a year for the average fisherman, change your top shots out, leave the braid for 2 or 3 seasons. Saves you tons of money and increase your capacity all at one time. Hope this helps out. It's a good little tip on increasing your capacity. Please stay safe on the water and leave a few for me. Thanks.